Welcome to Books for Success. Today, we're delving into the wisdom within Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. Atlas Shrugged plunges you into a dystopian America where the economy stagnates and society crumbles. As you navigate this complex narrative, you'll meet ambitious industrialists and scheming bureaucrats, and encounter the enigmatic question, who is John Galt? Prepare to grapple with philosophical themes of capitalism, individualism, and self-interest in this intricate web of economics, politics, and human resilience. Before we begin, subscribe and ring the bell for notifications if you want to keep receiving the knowledge of book summaries about health, wealth, love, psychology, and much more. Don't be shy about dropping your book suggestions for us to summarize. Also, you can use this video as an audiobook summary. Let's grow and succeed together. What's in it for me? Dive into a vital objectivist novel. Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged has influenced countless readers since it first hit the shelves in 1957. Set in a dystopian America, it dives deep into Rand's own philosophy of Objectivism, a system of beliefs that puts individual freedom and achievement front and center. It takes a hard look at how government control and collective thinking can stifle human spirit and creativity. Its characters are bold and passionate, fighting against the tide to innovate and succeed in a world that often tries to hold them back. But Atlas Shrugged is not just a story, but a critique of political and economic restraints and a testament to human potential. Whether you're interested in economics or politics, or just enjoy a good tale of personal struggle against the odds, this title is a must-read. It invites us to challenge the status quo and rethink what it means to be free. Part 1. We find ourselves walking the streets of New York City alongside Eddie Willers, a special assistant at the gargantuan Taggart Transcontinental Railroad. A shabby figure on the street interrupts Eddie's journey with a cryptic question, who is John Galt? This is a query that, in this rapidly declining America, stands as a symbol of despair and futility. As he meanders past the decaying storefronts of what was once the vibrant Fifth Avenue, Eddie feels a pang of unease stabbing at him, reflecting the waning industrial output of his country and the disconcerting slump in his employer's revenue. He finds himself locked in conversation with James Taggart, the current president of the railroad, an aristocratic figure with an air of unearned authority. The conversation gravitates towards the dire state of the Rio Norte line that serves Colorado, the last bastion of industrial vibrancy in America. That state is also home to Ellis Wyatt, a maverick who discovered a groundbreaking method for extracting oil from shale. To Eddie Willers, Colorado's survival is the linchpin of the nation's future, and Taggart Transcontinental, armed with new rails, is key. Enter Dagny Taggart, sister to James and Eddie's supervisor, a whirlwind of fierce determination and technical acumen. And she's refusing to let her brother's incompetence or society's decline dictate her path. After a disheartening trip to the Rio Norte line, she single-handedly takes the reins. She decides to source a revolutionary new product, Reardon Metal, being made by Hank Reardon's corporation, Reardon Steel, and has the potential to save her company. Her unwavering faith in the metal's superiority to steel sets the stage for her audacious plan to rebuild the Rio Norte line and take back control from competitor Dan Conway's Phoenix Durango Railroad. Among the many questions in Dagny's mind, the most puzzling revolves around Owen Kellogg, a competent terminal division employee who inexplicably abandons his position. Compounding her curiosity, Dagny encounters a brakeman humming a hauntingly familiar tune, apparently composer Richard Haley's Fifth Concerto. Haley was a gifted composer who had mysteriously disappeared 8 years earlier, leaving behind just 4 concertos. As the world goes on, the mystery thickens. We then shift our gaze to Hank Reardon himself, titan of industry, laboring late into the night at his steel mill. His invention, Reardon Metal, symbolizes a decade of relentless toil and innovation. Among the first objects forged from his metal is a bracelet he gives to his wife, Lillian. Yet instead of admiration, he's met with disdain. Her critiques of his work ethic and attempts to weigh him down with guilt only add fuel to his burning desire to succeed. Amid the shadows, whispers of deceit unfold. A clandestine meeting with implications of far-reaching consequences unfolds in a New York bar. Men of power and influence, including James Taggart and Orrin Boyle, plot to strip Reardon of his hard-earned wealth and control. The betrayal runs deep, even touching Reardon's trusted Washington man, Wesley Mooch. A series of setbacks follows. Dagny's trusted contractor, McNamara, vanishes without a trace, leaving the Rio Norte line in limbo. The anti-doggy dog rule passed by the National Alliance of Railroads threatens to shut down the Phoenix-Durango Railroad, leaving Taggart Transcontinental as the only option for freight transportation in Colorado. However, Ellis Wyatt, the fiery oil tycoon, demands efficient rail service to keep his business going, leaving Dagny and Reardon in a race against time. Farther afield, in Mexico, the fiasco of Francisco de Anconia's San Sebastian mines, a venture that promised wealth but delivered nothing, shocks the world. Amid the chaos, Francisco, once a figure of awe-inspiring genius, is now a dissolute playboy, his actions mystifying and troubling Dagny, his former lover. This is a world on the brink, where the old gives way to the new, where fortunes rise and fall, where loyalties and trust are tested. As the stakes rise, one question remains. Who is John Galt? These opening chapters lay the groundwork for a multifaceted narrative, centered around the existential struggles of key industrial figures in a deteriorating United States. Set against the backdrop of a declining society and weakening economy, the story presents a socio-political commentary that is integral to the narrative. To begin with, the cryptic question, who is John Galt? Is an omnipresent motif, acting as a symbol of despair and frustration in a society that appears to be crumbling under its own weight. It's a rhetorical embodiment of the disenchantment that resonates with the characters and underscores the larger socio-economic theme of decline. The metaphorical fall of Fifth Avenue stands as a proxy for the fall of American industrial might. The two principal characters, Dagny Taggart and Hank Reardon, represent the ideals of self-reliance, ingenuity, and unwavering determination. They stand in stark contrast to their counterparts, who succumb to societal decay and inertia, thereby demonstrating the thematic dichotomy of competence versus incompetence and perseverance versus resignation. Dagny's audacious decision to switch to weird metal, despite the logistical issues and societal criticism, is an act of defiance that manifests her belief in innovation and efficiency over political convenience. The story takes a dramatic turn with the introduction of conspiracy and intrigue. The sinister pact against Reardon introduces a conflict between self-interest and public interest. This narrative element explores the pernicious effects of crony capitalism, corruption, and the manipulation of power, shaping the story's critical analysis of social decay. Furthermore, the mysteries around Owen Kellogg's abrupt resignation and Richard Hawley's ephemeral Fifth Concerto add an element of suspense and deepen the narrative's complexity. The concerto connects to the motif of disappearance, signaling the vanishing of greatness and talent in this dystopian society, which in turn reinforces the overarching theme of social and industrial decline. Finally, the plot hinges upon the struggle to salvage what's left of industry and resist the encroaching darkness. This struggle, as personified by Dagny and Hank, underscores the narrative's exploration of resilience, ambition, and the relentless pursuit of success in the face of overwhelming adversity. As the protagonists grapple with mounting challenges, the story provokes us to question the survival of their ideals and the fate of America itself. Dagny is overseeing the construction of the Rio Norte line, surrounded by the obstacles created by Ben Neal's inadequate handling of the job. Part 2. This incompetence is made even more glaring when juxtaposed with Ellis Wyatt's efficiency and his respect for Dagny, a sentiment derived from their shared emphasis on achievement and productivity. Amid these challenges, Reardon comes into the picture. He introduces a new trust design, which signifies his innovative spirit and a break from outdated methodologies. However, the narrative takes a sobering turn with the introduction of Dr. Potter from the State Science Institute. Dr. Potter's request for Reardon to withdraw his medal represents an attempt to curtail his entrepreneurial spirit. Reardon refuses, but the institute retaliates by damaging the reputation of Reardon Medal without any substantiated evidence. In response to this attack, Dagny turns to Dr. Robert Stadler, the head of the institute, for support. Stadler, however, aligns with the Institute's financial interests and refuses to counter the unfounded accusations, further increasing the tension at Taggart Transcontinental as its stock falls. Against these odds, Dagny reveals her plan to establish her own company to complete the Rio Norte line, naming it the John Galt Line. This bold move, along with a commitment from the industrious people of Colorado and the unyielding Reardon, secures the railroad's early beginnings, while setting up the larger conflict between individual perseverance and government interference. Meanwhile, the underhanded Equalization of Opportunity Bill is making its way through the legislature, threatening to strip Reardon of his ore mines. Wesley Mooch, a confident-turned-traitor, fails to warn Reardon, dealing another blow to the entrepreneur. However, Reardon, always resourceful, manages to sell his mines in time, mitigating the impact of the bill. At the same time, Dagny's efforts start to bear fruit as the John Galt Line is inaugurated. She calls for volunteers for its first run, and the overwhelming response culminates in a successful journey. This triumph, witnessed by Dagny and Reardon under the media spotlight, is celebrated privately later that night as they give in to their mutual attraction. The morning after brings an emotional storm for Reardon, who battles social norms and his own feelings of guilt. Dagny, however, meets his turmoil with grace, defending their relationship and refuting social expectations of morality. Meanwhile, her brother James squanders his time manipulating Cheryl Brooks, a naive shopgirl who admires him. As these narratives intermingle, Dagny and Reardon embark on a vacation, leading them to the ruins of the 20th Century Motor Company. Here, they discover the remnants of a once revolutionary motor, igniting their determination to find the inventor and setting the stage for the ongoing battle between the human spirit and institutional oppression. This section of the novel continues to delve into the multifaceted struggles and triumphs of Dagny, Reardon, and their allies and adversaries, marking critical moments in their journey to self-reliance and defiance of societal degradation. One significant motif here is that of innovation and defiance, symbolized by Reardon's metallurgical creation, the revolutionary truss design, and Dagny's decision to create her own company to complete the Rio Norte line, despite overwhelming odds. This is indicative of their entrepreneurial spirit, resilience, and their willingness to challenge outdated norms and systems. Simultaneously, we see the emergence of external threats, personified by Dr. Potter from the State Science Institute and the insidious Equalization of Opportunity Bill, which together represent the antagonistic role of bureaucracy and government overreach, undermining entrepreneurial effort and innovation. Intertwined within this narrative of industrial struggle is a subplot of intense personal relations. Dagny and Reardon's relationship defies social norms and expectations and is a testament to their shared values of autonomy and individuality. In stark contrast to this, James Taggart's exploitation of Cheryl Brooks's naivete exemplifies a perverse pleasure derived from unearned admiration, indicating the negative consequences of a relationship of misplaced hero worship. Finally, the discovery of the abandoned revolutionary motor at the 20th Century Motor Company serves as a poignant symbol of wasted potential and reinforces the thematic tension between human innovation and systemic oppression. This provides an intriguing setup for the unfolding saga as Dagny and Reardon set out to locate the inventor, hinting at an undercurrent of hope amid systemic corruption and decline. Part 3. As the story continues, Reardon finds himself in the court's unforgiving gaze, accused of trading his Reardon metal under the table. He questions the court's authority with a simmering defiance, his voice asserting his right to trade his creation freely. The court hands down a fine. Reardon's path then collides with the charismatic Francisco d'Anconia, a man enveloped in hedonistic flair but armed with a formidable intellect. Their interaction revolves around a copper deal for Taggart Transcontinental. The pirate, Ragnar Daniskold, disrupts the transaction, however, sinking the ships carrying the copper and igniting tension between Reardon and d'Anconia. Soon, the U.S. copper industry crumbles under the relentless barrage of Daniskold's attacks. Reardon's steel, an edifice of industrial strength, buckles under the weight of its first failure. As the copper supply runs dry, Reardon's ability to produce the much-needed metal rail for Taggart Transcontinental's dilapidated mainline track evaporates, paving the way for a series of disastrous train wrecks and crippling business losses. Dagny, an ally in Reardon's capitalist battle, is cornered into closing down the Rio Norte line. The maelstrom of economic failure reaches James McTaggart as he grapples with trying to keep his railroad company afloat under political pressures. He seeks to strike a blow at Reardon, the source of his anxieties, prying damaging information from Reardon's wife, Lillian, who reveals Reardon's secret affair with Dagny. Meanwhile, an oppressive policy, Directive 10,289, takes form in the hands of influential Washington figures. The directive aims to freeze the economy, barricading workers in their current jobs and stopping business from evolving or introducing novel products. The government extracts Reardon's patent from him and blackmails him with threats of revealing his affair with Dagny. At this point, the narrative shifts back to the pirate Dan has killed. He approaches Reardon, offering gold bars as recompense for the punitive taxes with which Reardon is burdened. As disaster strikes the Taggart Tunnel in the form of a catastrophic train incident, Dagny is pulled back into the trenches, her duties calling her to the wreckage. Francisco d'Anconia, meanwhile, reveals his secret agenda to Dagny during an intimate meeting at her mountain retreat. He's been deliberately sabotaging his company to prevent the government from leeching off it. His plea for Dagny to leave the railroad falls on deaf ears as she is chained to her responsibility of saving her company. Meanwhile, Dagny discovers that her assistant, Quentin Daniels, is planning to resign to privately rebuild a clandestine motor. Could this be the same motor she discovered at the 20th Century Motor Company? Dagny's quest to reach Daniels before he vanishes into the unknown, like the many bright minds before him, culminates in a plane crash. She awakens in an enigmatic valley, which is the answer to the mystery of the vanishing intellects. The elusive John Galt has created a sanctuary for the world's greatest minds, those who have chosen to strike against the society that shackles them. In this hidden refuge, Dagny is introduced to faces that had disappeared from her world. Alice Wyatt, Francisco d'Anconia, and more. Here, in the heart of rebellion, Dagny works as Galt's housemaid, a choice born out of her relentless will. Her experiences among the valley inhabitants, and their unique beliefs, form the backbone of her time there. Despite the web of opposing ideologies between them, Dagny and Galt develop deep feelings for each other. However, their relationship is complicated by Dagny's lingering affection for d'Anconia, painting a complicated picture of love and loyalty. Returning reluctantly to decaying mainstream society, Dagny is confronted by a government devolving into dictatorship. Meanwhile, d'Anconia, having completed his subversive destruction of his own mines, exits the traditional economy and persuades Reardon to join the strike following their successful defense against an armed takeover of Hanks' steel mill. Galt, bound by his love for Dagny, follows her to New York, where he commandeers a national radio broadcast to elucidate the philosophy of Objectivism. The government, desperate to restore the economy, captures Galt and tortures him in a futile attempt to force him to their cause. As the authorities crumble and fall under their own ineptitude, Galt emerges as the beacon of a new era. The plot culminates in Galt's declaration that it's time for the strikers to reclaim the world, paving the way for a society that respects individual rights and free enterprise. At this critical juncture of the narrative, the dynamic interplay of objectivist principles, individualist rebellion, and decaying social structures highlights the fundamental themes of autonomy, resistance, and economic freedom. The characterizations of Dagny and Reardon shine a light on their perseverance amid socio-economic turmoil. Dagny's reluctant departure from the free and unregulated Galt's Gulch underlines her unwavering commitment to her railroad, encapsulating the theme of personal responsibility. The evolution of Reardon from an industrialist in denial to a conscious participant in the strike signifies a personal awakening to the concept of the sanction of the victim. John Galt's 3-hour radio broadcast serves as a crucial turning point, elucidating the tenets of Objectivism and articulating the central philosophy of the novel. His abduction and the government's subsequent attempt to leverage his genius symbolize the conflict between individual freedom and state coercion. The collapse of the government underscores the novel's thematic assertion that a society built on collectivism and force is ultimately unsustainable. Finally, Galt's declaration sets the stage for the novel's climax, emphasizing the belief in the primacy of individual rights and free markets. It's a rallying cry for the strikers to reclaim the world they had willingly left behind, signifying a hopeful beginning despite the disheartening backdrop of societal collapse. These elements, layered in the narrative, not only underscore Rand's core philosophies but also raise compelling questions about the role of the individual, the nature of freedom, and the consequences of unchecked government power in a society. Final words. Ayn Rand's novel, Atlas Shrugged, depicts a United States suffering from decline and government overreach. As its main characters grapple with a crippled economy and complex political machinations, people mysteriously vanish, giving rise to the enigmatic question, who is John Galt? Amid turmoil, Dagny Taggart and Hank Rearden strive to reinvent the industrial landscape but face institutional roadblocks. Betrayals and intricate relationships weave through the narrative, culminating in the revelation of a hidden refuge for great minds who wish to disappear from the crumbling chaos. With John Galt's re-emergence, a new dawn beckons, championing individual rights and free enterprise. Thanks for being part of our insightful voyage. If our summary piqued your interest, we encourage you to dive into the complete book for a deeper understanding. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more content if you're new here, and share it with others who might find it valuable. Keep on reading, discovering, and advancing until our next adventure.